What's going on, boys and girls? Welcome back to another episode of Eating Shit. If you're new here, the point of this show is to quickly come on here once a week and share the lessons I've learned with you guys in real time so you don't have to make the same dumbass mistakes that I have. Stupid. Or just learn from my experiences in general. If the episode provided value for you, share the show on your story or send it to someone that you think would benefit from it. Also, throw up a 5-star review on the podcast app or a thumbs up on YouTube if you're watching there to help out with the organic reach. So, right into lessons this week. I thought a valuable lesson to share. I've gotten this one a lot, but got it again this week is just a real general one, but it's like that you will never fully be prepared for whatever you're trying to do. And I think that there is like a pretty good middle ground for this one. I know a lot of people that never prepare for anything, and I think I lean a little bit more towards that than not, but I think that that's also a good way to just blow up and crash and burn if you just have an idea, immediately go after it without doing any type of preparation at all. And then you have people on the other end of the spectrum that do nothing but prepare, and they never take any action, and they don't get any traction, they don't make any progress with it whatsoever. So specifically why I was thinking about this lesson, if you guys follow this podcast, you know that we went into a new market as far as a virtual wholesaling model. I told you guys last week that we did not do Jacksonville, Florida because of the legality of cold calling and cold texting there. We ended up going into Birmingham, Alabama a couple weeks ago. Birmingham was kind of number 3 on our list. Oklahoma City was 1, Jacksonville was number 2, Birmingham was number 3. So how we got even a 1, 2, and 3 was from a lot of preparation. And I don't think that we over prepared for it by any means, but I think that we took a lot of steps that probably much, much more than most people do when they determine a new market to go into or just want to virtually wholesale if they've been doing it in their backyard. But we did spend a good amount of time preparing for this stuff. And one of the reasons why is because, when we're pivoting the entire model like that, we're still going to do stuff here in Reno too, but we just wanted to make sure, if we're going to spend a lot of time and money and effort on doing this, we at least want to make sure that, that variable we felt good with. It wasn't we picked the wrong market. This would have worked if we would have just picked a different market instead of this one. So when we were choosing our market, that's why we spent so long doing it. We went through and we started with 150 different metro areas in the nation. And then we narrowed it down based on a bunch of different data points, I guess. And there's probably a way to automate this, but we just went through and did it manually. And yeah, definitely the top 20 or 30, we went way deeper in with more and more data points as we narrowed it down. We didn't do all of this stuff for all 150 of them. But, the obvious ones are population size, population growth. We're also trying to think long-term with this. It's if we enter a market, potentially we may want to start buying there and holding for long-term. So we don't want to just pick a good wholesaling market, although that is important because we want to make money immediately. But also, we want to make sure that we're entering a market that we could see ourselves holding rentals in long term. So we want to pick a good rental market as well. So population size, population growth, median home values, median rents, Section 8 voucher amounts, weather. We looked at different data points on that. There was literally 20 things that we looked at. And then, we just were, we're still guessing because there is no if it meets this criteria, it's definitely a good market. And really, once we're in the top 10, it's just kind of splitting hairs on which one we should choose. They're all kind of the same. It's they'll all work for sure at that point, but we wanted to make sure we got to that point. So we didn't want to jump the gun and be let's go wholesale over here because someone else does deals there and we can do it too. And then you hop into the market, you have no clue, maybe totally oversaturated or whatnot. So we did do a lot of prep before we went into Birmingham. And, the one thing that made me think of, you'll never be fully prepared. Like, we're pretty fucking prepared. Like, we already have like a wholesaling business, like all of our systems and all this shit are set up. We obviously did all this work on the front end to choose the market. And then, you know, we had all of our systems set up to do the new market as far as like the phones and pulling data and like all this stuff to just immediately be productive and start doing deals in the market. One thing that we were thinking about when we were switching all of this is that how are we going to change our sales process? Because being local here in Reno, we knew that we have like an advantage in Reno versus us going to another market just because we know the market. It's local, obviously, and we've been working in it for, you know, the last 5 years. So it's pretty easy for us to determine like what is a deal and what isn't. And we knew that that would be a challenge when we go into a new market. And even in Reno, like underwriting takes a fair amount of time. And when we're switching from going to basically warm traffic, people calling us through PPC and website and direct mail and all that stuff, to cold traffic sources like cold calling and cold texting, the leads are cheaper, which is good. That's why we're doing it. We need to boost our ROI. And the flip side of that is you get way more leads. So you have to process through more leads. So it's like, shit, if we're going to be getting, you know, 50 leads a week, how are we going to be underwriting all of these things when we don't know the market? And most of them are going to be bullshit leads anyway. So, you know, we thought about it and we basically decided that we're going to do like quick and dirty underwriting based off of the AVMs, which is, I don't even know what the fuck it stands for, but it's like the Zestimate and like, you know, the Redfin value and the estimated value that all these different sites have. We're like, okay, you know, if we can average 3 of these sites, we'll use Zillow, we'll use, I checked out a few of them. I think we ended up using Zillow, Redfin, and then Batch, the service that we pay for. And it's like, if we just average these and then the rest of the underwriting is easy. It's just coming up with that, like the after repair value, basically. If we just average those, like that, yeah, it's going to be wrong for sure. But at least for right now, we're not even planning on buying in these markets like immediately. We're just going to wholesale. So we'll just try to get close enough. We'll estimate rehab. We know that's going to be wrong too. It's probably going to be half of what we think it is because our labor material costs are so high out here compared to the South. But, you know, we can figure that out easy enough just by talking to buyers. But it's really that, the after repair value. So in theory, we're like, yeah, just fucking, we don't even have to hang up the phone. We can do one call closes with these people, the sellers there. We'll just average those 3. We'll do, you know, the wholesale formula times 0.7 minus repairs. If it's going to be a rental, we'll use like the 1% rule, get it for a better deal than that. And that's how we're going to underwrite. And yeah, it's going to be wrong and we'll have to renegotiate sometimes because it is wrong, but that's okay. I think that's a very happy medium for what we're trying to accomplish instead of spending 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes on each deal trying to figure out the fuck the thing's worth. So, good plan, except as soon as day 1 in Birmingham, we figured out probably on deal 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's probably when we figured it out, the AVMs don't work in Birmingham. Like, the Zillow estimate is not a thing on 80% probably of homes in Birmingham, Alabama. You guys fucking just look up any address, no estimate, no estimate, no estimate. And then the ones that do have estimates, like I'm specifically thinking of a deal that we put in contract in Birmingham. The Batch estimate was like 238. The Zillow estimate was like 116. The realtor.com, I think we ended up using instead of Redfin now, is like 76. Like they're just all over the place. And there's a few reasons why, I think at least, like their assessor data is the worst I've ever seen. Like I always talk shit at the meetup that I run about our assessor data, excluding Washoe County, because Washoe County assessor is badass, but all of the other outside counties suck a lot of dick. The Jefferson County assessor sucks the most dick because it's just unreal how bad the data is that, you know, is getting pulled into all these sites. And I just can't figure it out yet. I need to talk to more locals there. I think we're just doing something wrong, but I have not been able to figure it out. And it's so bad that like I've seen, one of the deals that we were looking at, Kyle and I were sitting in here trying to figure out what the hell this thing's worth. And it said that the last sold was like $338, the last sold data, which some of these things might not be far off. Like it's very, very common there to see these homes that last sold for $7,000, $12,000, $5,000, these houses that are just in disrepair and in bad areas. But 300, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I guess maybe like a weird family deal or something. And we're digging into it, and we pull up this specific address on the assessor's website. And I noticed there's a little thing similar to Washoe counties when there's two buildings on one parcel, you can switch it to the second entry for that address. And I noticed that one of the entries was for the property that we were looking for. And I switched it to number 2. That one was for a totally different property, but for some reason, the property we were looking for was listed as the mailing address on this other person's property that they lived at, wherever. I don't know why, but all of the data that was being pulled into Zillow and Batch and whatnot was for this other property where, again, our address was listed as the mailing address. So like our bedroom, bathroom square footage wasn't even right. And it's being pulled off of the tax assessor's website or whatever. And the last tax payment, like last year's taxes, were $338 or whatever it was. And so that was the last thing that was paid. And all of these sites are pulling that in as the last sold. Like it has nothing to do with last time the property transferred title. It was last time the person paid the taxes, $300 bucks, and it's saying that it sold for that last year. And I'm blown away because it's a big county. Like there's 1 million people or more in the metro area, and I can't believe how bad their data is. But hopefully we can get that figured out a little bit. But yeah, it's just funny because like, we think that we have it all figured out and like we're gonna, we're all prepped and everything. And then I didn't even think to check if the AVMs worked, because we're just used to, like they're not accurate. We know that, but they're accurate enough, especially if you average all 3 of them for any deals that we look at locally here, that would probably work, probably would be close enough. Definitely not as good as comping, but I didn't even think to look at that. And now looking back, like, yeah, that should have been one of our data points. Like if we're going to underwrite based on AVMs, like maybe we should check if the AVMs work. So you're never going to be totally prepared. You do have to just like take action at one point. And I'm glad that we did, which brings us into our wins for this week because we got 4 deals in contract last week. So three the week before that, 4 deals in contract this week. And 2 of those were the first 2 in the new market, which is really good because we had only been in there for a week and a half marketing, and we got 2 deals in contract. And honestly, we could have got a few more at least. We just can't figure out what these things are worth. So one of them I feel good about that we'll be able to process it. And the other one I have no clue because it's $10,000 and it's likely that the thing is worth nothing just because the ARV is so low compared to the rehab that the property needs. I don't know, but it's in my opinion that it's going to be much easier to find buyers and contractors and all this other stuff when we actually have deals to sell them. And that's been true. Like, here it's Sunday night right now, but Saturday I was sitting here and with these 2 deals and I hit up a couple buyers and I'm like, hey, I can't figure out what the fuck this shit is worth. So help me and I'll give you first dibs on this deal. And they're just like, oh yeah, no problem. Like that's a way better pitch than, again, like doing too much preparation, calling, oh, I got to build my buyers list in Birmingham because we don't have one. And what if we get a deal in contract, we won't be able to sell it. And I could have sat here for 2 weeks trying to build the buyers list. But then like the buyers are annoyed because every new wholesaler in the world calls them, myself included, for this market, and they go through the same fucking script, and you can tell that they haven't done a deal. Like immediately when they're talking to you, they're like, yeah, I have, between 5 and 10 properties per month, and can you handle that type of volume? And it's just like, dude, you have no fucking clue what the hell it takes to do 5 or 10 deals a month, like to be asking if we can handle that much volume. But yeah, it's just like better pitch if you actually have something of value to offer the buyers. So we just waited, and Sure enough, we started marketing in Birmingham. First thing I did was hit up 3 property inspectors so we would have that ready. But those are easy to find because they're just like, they're in business, they're on Google, whatever. So we got an inspection for this first one already. We're still waiting to get access for the second one. So now when I talk to these buyers again tomorrow, like I've already got a home inspection, I've got photos, I've got videos that we paid for through the home inspection. And it's right next to a deal that, they have flipped before. So it's like, hey, you did this one on 9th Street. I got one on 8th Street. And they're like, fuck yeah. Like, that's a way better way to go about it. And that's why I always tell the new guys, like, buyers are like the easiest part of this shit. Like, it's easy to find buyers. It's very important to have a robust buyers list later, but just to do a couple of deals, like, yeah, you could fucking do deals with one buyer, especially if they're a legit buyer. So not super worried about that. But yeah, I'm super pumped on that just like I thought and like we hoped, that we wanted to take all this action up front and then massive action right at the beginning to immediately start doing deals. So, even if neither of these goes through, it's great that we're having quality conversations with the sellers and have enough leads to put 2 in contract immediately and then just go from there and figure out, a better way to underwrite and to comp them and stuff like that we're still going to be fighting without the AVMs, whether these ones are deals or not. So we'll figure that out in due time. Also got 2 of our previous deals assigned this week. So we have 12 deals in contract right now, which is awesome. That's the most I've ever had in contract by far. So a few of them are pending, already assigned. A few of them have not been marketed yet because of different reasons, and we're just in a holding pattern. So it's looking like, there's always some sort of fallout rate. And since we've never done volume like that, I'm excited to see what our fallout rate is going to be, which is like how many deals you have to give back or whatever to the seller. So you're never going to be able to process 100% of the deals that you put in contract. And if you do, you're not like taking enough chances. And if your fallout rate is like 70%, then you just don't know what the fuck you're doing. And like your valuations are wrong on everything. So I think a healthy place to be is about 75%. So that's what we're shooting for. I think with these, we'll be able to process just about all of them with the exception of that one in Birmingham, which I just don't know yet. But yeah, so we're shooting for 75% for the entire year. So we'll just try to keep on top of that KPI, make sure we're processing as many as we can, of course. So that about wraps it up for this week. I will see you guys on next week's episode. We'll be back with another lesson, and I'll share some more wins at what we have going on over here. So thanks for listening. See you next week.